Welcome back, my horde. So we'll start off immediately with a different story altogether. No, I'm kidding. Let's go Sorcerer.
Yeah,
So Sorcerer,
I've played one.
I've played more.
Like I'm playing one right
Yeah.
now.
Are you?
Yeah, well, among other things.
Oh, I guess no. Sorry. You are right.
I started
you are
off
right.
as a sorcerer.
You are right. I'm like, what the frick are you talking about? I always forget he's a sorcerer.
It's
We
because
don't
he
use
uses
a lot
that
of
much
magic in
magic
that
anymore.
campaign, even though quite a few of us are casters.
Yeah, I know.
I really need to work on fixing that.
My first character was a sorcerer.
My first character.
So was mine, actually.
Yeah.
But to be fair, I actually I have wanted to play a sorcerer a couple times. I've made a couple of small ones, whatever. I think, like I said, I think I made one for Pathfinder one that had a bloodline. It was one of their. You remember
That
how
is
we
definitely something they brought up in Pathfinder.
were going over it before, where the sorcerer doesn't have any bonus feats. Well, a sorcerer in Pathfinder has a bloodline.
Yep.
And basically, whatever bloodline you take, you get little benefits here and there from it.
Yep.
So, if you take a fire bloodline, as you start getting bigger and stronger, you start becoming more immune to fire. You actually, I believe, I could be wrong. It's been a while. And by a while, I mean, I think 5 years. Whenever Pathfinder actually officially came out,
Yeah.
is when I actually looked at Pathfinder.
I mean,
hard.
you ran a Pathfinder campaign for a while.
Yeah. But again, that was when it first came out. It was anyway. I think when you got cut, you actually did fire damage eventually. And all your fire spells added an extra D6 or doubled your level or something like that. It was stuff like that. It was all little things like that. Which would be pretty cool, because that's how I did it. One of the things that's really weird is that sorcerer, it actually indicates that you're supposed to have a school. You're supposed to pick one of the things as your school, evocation
to
or
get benefits from it.
Yeah, but I've never seen any actual thing where it says that you have to, and I've never seen anything that says that you actually what benefits you really do get. Now I could just be not finding the benefits properly.
The benefits are dependent on school. I remember looking at it at one point, but it's been a long time since I looked at it. It's the benefits were dependent on whatever the school was, and you lost complete access to the opposite school.
Yeah, which is just weird.
Yeah. I can understand negatives to it, but no, you straight out right, you can't do it, which is why I never chose a specialization. It's the same for wizards.
Well, not just that, but again, going back to the concept that the D&D really didn't want you to be evil. It takes so long. I actually wanted to make a sorcerer at one point that was a necromancer. And it takes so long before you can actually become a necromancer. Stupidly long. You would think that it wouldn't take that long with all the skeletons running around and shit like that. But it's, from what I remember, it was something stupid. I could be, again, misremembering because it's been a while. But for some reason, I thought it was it's something when you're actually going down the path, to actually start commanding, undead and stuff like that, you have to do more rituals. And I think that's another problem, is that there actually are, spell-like rituals that they just never bring in any of the books. You did it in the, again, you guys haven't, actually maybe by this time you have, but nonetheless, in the campaign that we're running, you have a room that's just basically got a spell permanently on it.
No, it's the ritual chamber is.
No, I was talking about the
library.
Library. Or the house. But the problem is that, honestly, you have to find a permanency spell to put it on, something like that. And it's it's just, the permanency spell is such a freaking high level, if I'm not wrong, either.
Yeah, permanency or enchantments for large areas get rather redonkulous.
Just quickly trying to find out. So I don't think it's under first level. Just quickly checking here. It's Because, yeah, like, I'm trying to look at all the necromancer spells. So, necromancer... Yeah, command undead is a 2nd level spell.
Which means you have to be like 4th level to be able to get it.
2nd level spells you get at 4th level. You are correct. And that's command undead.
Yeah.
That's not creating them, that's commanding them.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't think there's... where's... You know, can you actually create them?
I don't think it's listed in any of the player handbook spells, come to think of it.
Yeah, that's what I've always had a problem with. Is like, I'm actually just quickly double checking.
I think it's described in the monster manual.
Create undead.
Oh, yep, there you go.
But it's not skeletons. It creates ghouls, ghasts, mummies, and whatever the frick Mohork is. Or Mohrgs.
Morg.
Sure. And that's a 6th level spell. Which you
means you're
cannot...
going to be about level 12.
Yep. So, with that, you know, like, you can't... And those are not skeletons. So, like, is it easy? It would be easier to create skeletons, you'd assume, because those are freaking much higher. So, it's like, you know, where's the skeletons? And then the concept is, like, you know, like, as far as I understand
Like,
it...
legitimately speaking, if in the world of D&D... bodies just rose to skeletons, just random on their own, there'd be a lot more cremations going on.
Yeah.
Like, quite literally, there'd be a dragon that, quite frankly, is making a fortune going, once a month, goes around to this city and just breathes on the pile of dead bodies to cremate them.
But the idea that, you know, like, my confusion has, like, always been, like, how do you create a skeleton? Like, you know, and then it goes back to the rituals. Which is like the concept that you have to do a magical ritual. But then the problem is that there's nowhere in the books that say the difficulty for that.
There's nothing written on ritual magic.
Yeah.
It might... certain spells, like resurrection and stuff like this, might hint at that this is a ritual, but there's nothing really specified or listed in it.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where I've always been confused, because I actually want to make a sorcerer necromancer. Who actually, like, would go around and, like, he was going to be a good person, who basically what would happen is, upon the death of, like, near the death of, like, a knight, for example, like, if the knight's getting old, he would ask the knight if the knight would like to serve after its, you know, death. And then if he agreed, he'd bring him back as a skeleton. And the concept would be is the fact that I was going to go with the idea that how I always had imagined it is the fact that you create a skeleton. The skeleton is mindless, quote unquote, because you are dominating its will. But if you don't dominate its will, it would be intelligent still. Because of the fact that it would have the spirit of the person inside it.
The undead, there's numerous ways of looking at it. Like, realistically speaking, okay, you've got a zombie. Okay. Stick it in a sewer for a while where it'll decompose faster. Does it turn into a skeleton?
Yeah, actually, that's what I was going to bring up. That's one of the things, is the fact that I'd always wondered that too. It's like, does a skeleton become a zombie? Or once it's a zombie, is it actually in the weird form that its flesh is now actually degraded to a certain point, but actually preserved?
I've always gone with the magic preserves the zombies.
I guess it's always been...
Depending on the type of zombie, because if we get into current day zombie movies and everything, I guess there's numerous different types of zombies.
Yeah, no, the other thing is the fact that, like, the other problem is I also have information that's based off another campaign. Or, White Wolf. There is a vampire in White Wolf that can bring back the dead. When they bring back the dead, they actually bring back you as a zombie. And while they bring you back as a zombie, you slowly degrade. So my argument is the fact that theoretically they don't disappear. So because they don't disappear, like they, you know, magically are there. When their flesh starts falling off, they're just bones. It actually does state that they become skeleton-like. The problem is that it terrifies people.
So again, you generally get destroyed before they become skeletons.
So what I do, because I got really smart when I came up with it, I actually created like a mercenary group, basically, that would go to like special functions and protect your people, but they were all wearing like SWAT gear, like the full suit of like chest armor, full clothing, gloves, full helmet, where you couldn't see their face.
So in other words, they couldn't see anything, but it's all skeletons.
Correct.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. It's
And yes, with my twin, skeletons is something I was thinking about doing, but I'm not quite sure how deep I'm going to go into it or not. Because it's really on how this campaign goes. So.
yeah, no, I can understand that.
Because if I'm going to go with skeletons and stuff like that, I don't want to make sure that I don't want this campaign to go where skeletons would be too weird. Like, if we go with the way that we're going right now in that campaign, which I know you guys are, I'm trying to be vague, I know, but if you guys watch that one, months later, you go, oh, no, this is what he's talking about. So there we go. Anyway, if we're going with the concept
Wait up the views.
if we're going with the way how the campaign is so far going, and we actually do open up that business of ours, I may go with skeletons being protection, underground protection, because the concept that they would still
They're out of sight, they're out of mind, nobody would trig to it,
and the only people that would see it would know that they're mine and would just ignore them.
Yeah, I can see that.
And any of those ones any of my miners that die, have the option to come back and protect their loved ones.
Yeah, that's one way to get recruits.
Yeah,
no, it's
So by the time we actually get to that point, if we're actually going down that path and stuff like that, you will also have to figure out if I will turn someone who's willingly wants to become a skeleton, do they keep some of their intelligence?
I would have to think on that because the book says they're dumb posts.
But again, that would be the concept that, in my opinion, it's because you have to dominate them to do your bidding.
Yeah, no, I understand. Like I'll have to think about that.
Yeah.
No, it's when it comes to sorcerer or casting out in general for both sorcerer and wizard, I've personally always looked at it as the sorcerers are the combats. They're the guys that they're going in. They're the war mages. They go into the fight and they're blowing stuff up. Where the wizards are the supporters. They're the enchanters. They're the crafters. They're the guys that are making all the magical gear that you're finding around being able to buy and everything else like this.
Well, that's
to
why
me, that's what makes sense. But
and it's also the concept that with that the wizards are intelligent based. So I'm agreeing with you. The wizards are intelligent based, where the sorcerers are like the bloodline. Their charisma, it's inside you. So that kind of is where that also goes. And my one sorcerer I was going to make, I was actually going to make him a tattooed monk. Or tattooed sorcerer, sorry. It's actually like where you can actually have like tattoos on you already.
Yep.
And when you actually like cast a spell, you can actually cast the thing to do certain things as well. I think there's a tattooed monk that does very similar kind of concepts. But it's like if you have like if you have fire on your arm, basically, if you have a tattoo of fire on yourself, whenever you cast fire spells, it lights up, and your fire spells do more damage.
I've never heard of the tattooed caster, so I'd have to take a look at it.
I think it's one of the weird books. I think it's actually in a 3rd edition book. Because, yeah, I used to look at a lot of the books. At one point, me and Tammy had literally looked in every single book that we had access to. The reason I say it like that is because we had a bunch of them like either digitally or we found a site that had some now. And we looked through them every single one of them. Because what we were trying to do is Tammy was trying to make a character that was like a level 100 plus. And I was trying to make a character that was like level 1,000 plus.
Yeah, that would get. I don't even want to think about the calculations needed to do that shit.
Oh man. Well, the reason that I was going
Base
with
attack bonus alone.
oh no,
Stupid.
dude, it was stupid. Like, don't get like because again, I went with 2 different things. One of them it was basically the ninja. So again, wisdom bonus, and my character had a high wisdom and a high dex.
Well, at that level, the stat boosts
Yeah.
alone.
The second thing is the fact that I also went with I think swashbuckler, which adds your intelligence modifier to your attack.
Yeah, that's just being a troll ass
So-
asshole.
So I added my dex because I went with weapon finesse. So I went with dex and intelligence, both to my actual thing. On top of which, he was also a paladin, which gives his charisma bonus to his saves. But the other thing is the fact that he was like his age was something stupid. Like he's like a couple billion years old.
Yeah.
So like
I don't even want to know what the hell kind of experience points you need to level up at that point.
well, argumentatively, when you're fighting a god and winning, I think it's enough experience points.
Depends on the god.
Well,
I mean, there's going to get to a point where you could wipe out existence, and all you're going to do is go, oh, god damn it, I only got 10% of a level.
yeah, well, again, there's also other things that theoretically should give you experience. Like saving, orphans or, learning something different. It's one of the weird things that D&D has where it's like you get rewarded for killing things, and that's really what you get rewarded for.
Technically, you're supposed to get rewarded for killing things, primarily. You're supposed to also get rewarded for any successful skill check.
Sure.
Yeah.
As far as I've ever read, no.
It's,
I think that's been a thing that...
That was something in White Wolf.
I think you're supposed to get, like...
Yeah, well, we'll go over that in a second.
You're supposed to get something like 25 experience for a successful skill check.
See...
But the catch is it has to have life-threatening consequences.
Sure.
So, like, disable device.
See, then that's the other weird thing. Is the fact that by doing it that way, you argumentatively, if you really want to be a douchebag GM, which I do want to do it, and I don't want to do it for one of my sessions, which is if you don't attack that creature, you get 1/10 of the experience because you're only watching people attack it. That is if you're watching people attack it. If you don't participate by watching, if you don't participate by attacking, you got no experience.
Yeah.
If you were just watching people attack it, you get 1/10 of the experience. If you're attacking it, you get full experience. If you're attacking it with a friend, you guys have to share experience. And shit like that. And then going with the skills, because then what happens is you'd get groups that would be heavily off balance. You'd have a guy in a group who's level 50. I know it's a little extreme, but I'm just using it. Another guy who's level 10. And those gaps go dramatically when that level 50 is going up, stabbing a guy and killing him instantly, and the other guy goes, well, I got 10% of experience because I watched it at least. Yay!
Yeah,
So 10% of 100 experience for killing that guy is 10 experience.
Yep.
Woo!
Yeah, you see, that's what I mean. Like, that's what I'm trying to say. And also, actually, I'm trying to be the crappy GM here. Actually, Chris, you're only going to get 10% of 10 experience because he's too high of a level, so you really didn't get any real good information when
So
he
I
just...
get 1 experience point.
Ooh, got 1 experience. Only 12,000 more to go. Before
Exactly.
I can level again.
Fuck.
Hey Frank, go wipe out a village or two.
Fuck, even just to go to level 3, I need 3,000 experience.
But then again, I guess that's the whole point of why
Fuck off!
adventure
Like
parties
1
tend
experience,
to-
no.
At least in stories, they fracture off at times.
I think it's also supposed to be the fact that adventuring parties, why they fracture off, is because it's supposed to be actually this concept that you actually have fucking lives. It's something that I wanted to do for so long, and when I tried doing it with a group, they just looked at me and went, which is the concept like like our characters right now, like using me and Chris's characters, our twins.
The brothers.
We're 14 years old. In a couple months. At some point in our lives, we're supposed to have families. And then that's where our venturing experience is supposed to either end or be delayed. Where, like, for example, if we had an elf in the group, maybe he doesn't leave so quickly. Because the concept is that, he lives longer, so he doesn't have to leave as quickly to have, children.
You guys are in the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, just getting out of high school, I'm going to take on the world kind of thing, and then you haven't quite hit the point of, you know what, I want to settle down, have a kid, stable job for a while.
Or the other concept is, like, let's say, like, me, going with just a campaign. Let's just go me, Chris, and you. So let's say, like, we actually, start off as level 16 humans. That's the youngest you can start off as a human. And then, like, after we do this adventure, which is, like, we have to go through this dungeon. And we're, like, all still 16-year-olds. We get a bunch of treasure. Theoretically, at that point in time, we all should go home. And then once we're home, we get into adventure, which could be a couple months from there. And where, maybe Chris has a family, and then he leaves his family to go, back adventuring. But, like,
And then I die, and then you have to deliver the news.
Exactly, but it's like the concept, like, no one has really done that where they actually have a family. Or, like, another one, which is the book actually freaking brings up this. It's just no one ever plays with it. Which is the concept that, like, elves, for example, when they're actually, I think it's elves and gnomes, but I could be wrong. But it's when a lot of the older living races, they actually meet humans or half-orcs. A lot of the time with the humans, they don't like Chris. They like Chris's family. So because of that, when, like, Chris, dies of old age...
Uncle Elf has been Uncle Elf for, like, 6 generations.
Correct. So it's like one of those things where it's like, the kid starts joining the adventuring party. And, like, he's level, like, freaking 1. He joins the adventuring party with this level 10 elf who's like, yeah, let's go adventuring.
Yeah.
And then, the kid goes back.
And the elderly father who's been adventuring with this elf throughout, who they started with, he's just like, watch out for my son, friend.
Yeah, and like,
and he's a trusted person who will guide my son
and, like,
how to do this right.
The kid's wearing, like, his dad's old armor.
Yeah.
So he's got, like, a boost where, like, you're starting off, like, 4th generation where you've got, like, freaking boots is, running and freaking, feather falling on them.
Depending on family tradition. The family tradition could be, no, we're going to take you and we're going to make you good, high-quality masterwork gear type deal, but all the enchantments and everything else, I guess all the magic gear, you're on your own for that.
Well, again, it's just the concept.
Or it could be that heirloom blade. No, this is all you're getting handed down to you. You got to get everything else yourself.
Which is actually also another thing that I really wanted to play with, is the fact that, like, it would be kind of cool if you, like, had a blade, for example, going with that. You had one sword that you pass down from generation to generation to generation to generation. And that sword, every single time a new person has it, you're allowed to put one new trait on the sword. And then, like the legendary effects. Like, I'm going with that concept. You're allowed to put one new legendary effect on it. You can never put another magical enchantment on the blade. It's just every single time that you, like, a new person gets the blade, they have to cut themselves with the blade. And when they cut themselves with the blade, their blood goes into the blade and creates one new special effect. It would be interesting if, like, even if the GM was
just
like,
slightly enhances a special effect already exists.
Well, yeah, but it was just like, it would be interesting if that was like...
Here's another interesting thing we can do for that age and generation gap. Well, that elf. Yeah, this adventuring party fucked up my plans. I've been working on this for 50 goddamn years. Completely fucked up my plans, but he managed to get away. What does he do? 70 years later, comes back. Hey, I'm gonna kill you for all my revenge and everything. What the hell happened to you? You look like... I can walk over there and flick you and you're... Fuck it, I'm just gonna flick you in the head, you're dead. Now I'm gonna go after your family. Oh, you're the adventurer now. Okay.
There has been... I think there is a story that actually does... The only problem is I think the story that I'm thinking of with like it's a module. Sorry, is the fact that it's not you that they're going after. It's the king's son, who's the new king, and he's like 40. And it's the concept that the Lich had been trapped away by his father
For so damn long, and he didn't know that everything else had, and anything had changed because he's a friggin' lich. Time means nothing to him.
Yeah.
And if you're trapped in a location, you kind of lose track of time.
Yeah. So, no, I didn't want to do that sword thing. That would be really cool, like, having it where you actually have a sword and, like, either the GM rolls a random thing for it, or, like, you get to choose, and it's like every generation.
Never mind.
Yeah, no, it's thinking about that whole lich thing. I was just thinking about what would the lich's reaction be to, like, a lich in the standard D&D Greyhawk variety kind of campaign. How would it react if it's, I finally broke out of this seal, I'm going to get my revenge, walks out and it's looking at Dragonstar with their spaceships and everything else like this, and it's going, I'm going to get my... How in the hell long was I down there?
Yep.
What am I supposed to do now?
Yep.
And it just... that would be a kick-ass campaign, being a bunch of liches trying to cope with that.
In White Wolf, as a vampire, when that happens to you, you find the nearest boy or girl, really doesn't matter, you find the nearest child, usually, so that they can actually be useful and grow up. But anyway, you find the nearest child, you take the child, and you force the child to work for you and teach you what the hell's going on. It's really bad because, like, vampires will wake up, like, they'll sleep during, like, the 1500s and wake up in 2012. What the fuck's a phone? Especially with how technology has jumped so dramatically.
Or a car.
Oh, yeah. But
a
car,
plane.
Car you can kind of understand.
Car, okay, so it's a horseless carriage.
Yeah. Literally, you can understand. A plane. Okay, so it's like, a bird that you shove people into, so it's like a flight carriage. Weird, but okay.
Yeah.
How the hell do you... So this is like a phone. How do you explain a phone to a freaking
500-year-old vampire
who, because there's nothing like, you can't go, oh, it's like radio.
What's radio?
Yeah. Okay, it's like,
what the hell's a text? It's sending a letter.
It's
just
like Morse code.
It's just a lot faster.
Yeah, it's like Morse code.
What's that?
Yeah. It's like sending a letter, except you can talk to the person.
Okay.
In real time. From all around the world.
What sorcery is this?
Yeah, pretty much. It's called technology. Okay, say it with me really slowly. Technology. Okay, put your fangs away. Put your fangs away. I will never talk to you again. Sorry.
No, those would actually be both the inherited tool, like you're talking. Those would actually be decent character concepts. I mean, hell, the entire plot hook for the adventure could be maybe somebody stole that blade.
Well, again, it could just be the concept that, like, you're starting off as a level 1 adventurer who has a sword that's a +5 sword with, like, Bane Arachnid, heal light wounds, 6 times a day.
Yeah.
And freaking, trying to think of something that's kind of interesting. I'm coming, light. So, like, you have just that on the blade. So it's like, okay, you start off with, like, a freaking badass blade.
I don't think I'd allow it to go to such extreme, but it'd be like...
The thing is the fact that...
I think, like, each generation, like, that whole cutting...
well, that would be the concept. This kid's the 9th generation person to hold that blade.
It'd be something like, okay, maybe you've got a bunch of kick-ass enchantments on it, because that's when the sword is played, but from then on, it's like, okay, well, say this family is a bunch got a bloodline of, like, fire giant or something like that. Well, maybe every time that it accepts a new carrier, it starts dealing, like, 1 point of fire damage. Well, the next generation, it reinforces that, so it's now doing 2 points of fire damage.
Yeah, but see, the problem is the fact that doing it that way, you would have to have a character, for it to be useful, you would have to have a character who's like, 30th generation.
Well, I mean, realistically speaking, think about heirloom blades, like, even back in Victorian age and everything else like this. They were still passed down for generations upon generations.
I'm not
They didn't
arguing
have
that.
any funky effects to them.
No, I'm not arguing that. I'm saying the fact that, like, to actually start getting some cool effects where the players are like, oh man, this blade is so freaking awesome. To get to that degree, the generation would have to be like 30. Which, if you actually go with the concept that if you don't do anything too funky, a adventurer would be, let's say he leaves home when he's 16. So he gets the blade when he's 16. He doesn't have children until he's 30. So that's 30 years so that's 30 years. And then he gives it to his son when he hits 16. So every generation would be a 30-year gap. No, I did that wrong. It would be actually a 45-year gap, I think I did. Yeah. I think if I did my math right, it'd be a 45-year gap.
No, 30-year. Because realistically, what you're thinking about is you'd be going from the point of birth of the kid
Yes.
to when you'd have a child.
No, but he wouldn't give the blade to the kid when he has a child because he'd be a 30-year-old who'd still go out adventuring. He wouldn't give the blade to the kid until he's 16. So like, going with mixing up numbers, but 45 years of gap.
Yeah, but we're going for the 30 years because, okay, he's born, and then this is when he has a child.
Which is 30 years.
Which is when that person is born.
Yes.
So
but,
it's the 30-year gap.
But I'm trying to say, no, it wouldn't be. Because you're thinking about this completely wrong. You have a kid. Like, let's say you're 30 years old. You have a kid. Mm-hmm. You're not going to give him your sword until he's 16. Yeah. So that means that for another 16 years, you have the blade.
Yeah.
So now you're 45, going with the round numbers. You're 45 when you give him the blade.
When he's 16.
Yes.
And
then it would be 30 years after.
It'd still be a 30-year gap. It's the
It'd
offset.
be 45. Okay. I guess. No, is it really though?
Yeah. Well, realistically, let's do it this way: adult at 15, kid at 30. Okay.
Okay. Well, let's just go with 30. I'm just going to keep it simple at 30. So if you do it,
if you get the blade at 15, and you have your kid at 30, then yes, your character will be 45 years old when the new kid is 15.
Yes.
But the time period between when you get the blade and when your kid gets the blade is only 30 years.
Fine. We're moving on.
Yeah.
30 years was what I was going to go with anyway. Anyway, 30 years. If you do that, giving a mild change here and there, you're looking at the concept that you have 3 generations in 100 years. So if you're doing that kind of math, even if you want to go with 4 generations in 100 years, you would, to get more than just a small token of something on that blade, you would have to go through, let's go with 20 generations. That's over 2,000 years. Or not 2,000, that would be 400, no, I can't even do math right now.
Just doing, it'd be 2,500 years. Doing 4 generations
so
per 100
over 2,000 years. So it'd be a stupid amount of time.
Okay, I can understand it, but by the same factor is like, at one point it's you don't want to unbalance everything else because you have this one kid who's got this kick-ass blade and yet everybody else is using pieces of crap.
Yeah, but the concept is, again, I think the problem I've always had is the fact that I want my character to basically walk through things and go, ha-ha, stab, stab, stab. I don't want to be that guy that's, like, struggling through his entire fucking life. Dude, I struggle through my entire fucking life. I don't want to repeat that in a fucking video game.
Yeah,
that's my biggest problem with life.
Different cues.
Like, I don't mind struggling a bit, but it's, like, the concept that, like, when, like, you're walking out of battles with fucking 1 HP every time and going, well, that could have gone smoother. And, like, again, like, some of the effects could be, not as extreme.
Well, if you're going for a full enchantment, because enchantments can be extremely powerful. I'd be more looking along the lines of it would have to be one every couple of generations. Because I'm sorry, a blade with Vorpal on it. Vorpal's one enchantment, but
Yeah,
it's
but
a plus 5 bonus.
Yeah, but that's
that
the difference.
That
That's
can
the difference.
kick a lot of ass.
That's the difference. That's a +5 bonus. I never said doing a +5 bonus. I was saying like doing small enchantments. Like the example I gave you was a +5 sword with a light, healing, and bane.
Light and healing would be easy. I could see those easy. Light and bane. The healing is with
It's
6 charges.
Again, that could
If
be.
it was like 1 charge per generation,
It could be.
Okay, I can understand.
It could
that.
be, or it could have even been trying to think of the word here. It could have been 2 charges per generation, something like that, or it could have been something else. Like and again, the other thing is the fact that maybe there's certain things you add where it's like but again, the other problem is like the other thing I was going to say with the sword was the way I originally had thought about it is that you cannot put magic on the sword.
It's
cannot.
It's something that either yeah. Oh yeah, you go and fight that dragon. You manage to kill that dragon with your family's sword. Well, it gains fire aspect.
Yeah.
Oh, it's your family's sword, but you're a healer. Well, that's where the healing charge came from.
Yeah.
Maybe your family's primarily healers.
Yes, stuff like that would be fine.
Yeah, okay, I can understand that.
It's just like I said, it was the concept that you could not add extra stuff to it. It has to be added either through combat or like a challenge.
Yeah,
and like,
you have no control over it. The GM would. That could actually be fairly storyline well done, actually.
Or another one's like basically it would be a legacy weapon. It would be the concept. It would be a legacy weapon. It's just
anybody else could pick up the sword from any other family, and it would do shit all nothing.
Correct.
Somebody with that bloodline picks up that sword, and all of a sudden,
not even just that bloodline. You have to be given the sword. Right. By it's So the concept, because that's actually
which would keep it from getting powerful because you're going to have adventures where things are going to go wrong.
And not just that, but the other thing would be this concept that like if you actually had something similar to that, you have to be given it, and once you're given it, it maybe has like a delay where it can't be given to anyone else for a certain amount of time, or even the concept that it can never be given back to you. So the concept is like if your father takes it, he gets 2 sons. You can't pass it between the 2 sons. Only one of them can have it.
Yeah. And then there's always the fact that, like I was saying, you're on adventure, the child dies. Well, the brother might have to go and reclaim the blade in order to take over headship of the family. But
there's actually still a way to do it.
Because it's got to be
have to do a ritual then to summon the spirit of the other person to then give you the blade.
I was thinking something a little bit different. It's he gets the blade. He is now in charge of the family, but the blade does not reactivate until he's handed it to his heir.
No, because then he could theoretically, it would be a little concept that he could just hand it to his wife, argumentatively.
No, because it's got to be from the bloodline.
She could still be from the bloodline.
That is no.
First off, distant cousins still relatives. If she is 3 or 4 generations removed, it's not uncommon for that to happen, especially in certain villages. Because the concept
there's numerous ways that we can do it. Mostly, it's up to the GMs as to how.
I'm just saying, like the concept would be is like if you're going with a sword like that.
Feel free to chime in at any time, Chris.
Well, we're gonna be ending it soon because it's like 40 minutes. But if you had a sword like that, like I said, I'm pretty sure that Tammy actually, when she did her paladin thing, I'm pretty sure that when you that she found a sword there, in that module that we found, there was a paladin sword that she could not use. It's supposed to be given to you by the king. However, he's dead. Long fucking dead. So what you actually have to do is you have to actually put this sword in a circle with its sense and all this stuff.
Summon the shade, get the shade.
You don't actually summon it, really. It's that you do this ritual and you sit there and basically you hallucinate and you actually see him.
You want a vision quest.
And
Basically,
then,
yeah.
and it's whether or not the
If he thinks you're worthy of it, he will give you the blade. And then when he gives you the blade, you actually then can have it. And that would be the same kind of concept. It's that you would have to do like a ritual where you basically see him and he gets to choose if he gives it to you or not. If he gives it to you, which I don't see why they wouldn't. If you're the last fucking member of that family, yes, please take the blade. Please breed. Please do go.
It could even be one of those things where if you're last member of the bloodline that the blade can detect, it won't work for you.
That would be awful.
To make it so that you don't go out and venturing and
No,
you
that
do
would
pass
be
on.
awful because then you wouldn't have the sword to protect you.
Eh.
Anyway, let's end this here. So
We
until
can
next
keep
time,
going.
my horde. Maybe not get into large weird arguments about a sword that theoretically doesn't exist, and you're probably not going to use it in any campaign anytime soon. That would be kind of useful. Hopefully you enjoyed though.